Welcome back to the deep dive. I'm Alex.
And I'm Jamie. It's great to be back.
Today we're taking a really deep look into something most of us probably try not to think about too much.
Yeah, the privacy of your phone. Or maybe the lack thereof. We're exploring just how public your phone data and activity actually are.
Exactly. We've gone through a pile of source material on this, and well, our mission today is pretty straightforward.
We want to give you a shortcut. A way to understand the legal side, what tech companies are really saying, and honestly, the real-world consequences of all this data collection.
And we're not going to sugarcoat it. The spoiler, right up front, based on what we read, it's quite something.
Yeah, the sources put it bluntly. Your phone data's accessibility is, and I quote, more public than your embarrassing high school photos.
Wow. Okay. That hits hard. Because, you think your passwords and settings mean something.
That's the core of it.
Yep.
That's the uncomfortable truth we kind of have to sit with. Huge amounts of your data text, where you go, what you search for, which apps you use, and when it's all being gathered.
Gathered, and then what?
Collected, shared, sold, monetized.
Yeah.
Every single day. It's this massive economy running in the background, fueled by, well, your digital life.
Okay, so let's unpack that. This idea of an illusion of privacy. Our sources really hammer this point, the huge gap between what we think is true and what's actually happening.
Right. The common belief, the comforting thought is, my data's private, there are laws, I control what I share. That feels fundamental, doesn't it?
It does. It's a personal device.
But the reality, according to everything we looked at, it's basically the opposite. Every tap, every move.
Yeah.
It's tracked. It's sold.
And the laws.
These sources describe a situation where legal loopholes are just everywhere. Digital privacy ends up being, and this is another quote, mostly theater. Your data isn't really treated like your property. It's a commodity, plain and simple.
So the moment you turn your phone on, you're basically under surveillance. Is that too strong?
It doesn't feel too strong based on the material.
Yeah.
The collection is continuous. It's comprehensive. Let's make it real for you listening. That text message you just sent, it's logged. Not just the words, maybe, but who you sent it to, when, where you were.
Right.
That coffee shop you visited. Your location data was probably sold to a data broker almost instantly.
Wow.
That slightly weird thing you searched for at 3 a.m.? Oh yeah, definitely recorded, categorized, maybe used to target ads later. You're carrying this incredibly powerful surveillance device.
That I paid good money for.
Exactly.
Okay, but hang on. What about those big court cases, the ones that make the news? They seem like wins for privacy.
Yeah, and they were significant. You're probably thinking of two main ones, right?
Riley v. California. About searching phones after an arrest.
That's one. 2014, the Supreme Court said police need a warrant to search your phone's contents if they arrest you. Huge for the Fourth Amendment.
And the other big one was Carpenter v. United States about location data.
Yep, 2018. That one said police generally need a warrant to get your historical location data from your phone carrier. Again, seemed like a massive win. The court recognized how revealing that data is.
So we have these rulings. Why are we still saying privacy is an illusion?
Because, and this is where it gets really interesting, our sources describe these major legal wins as basically speed bumps on the surveillance superhighway.
Speed bumps? How can a Supreme Court ruling just be a speed bump? That sounds like the Fourth Amendment is almost being ignored in practice.
Well, not ignored maybe, but bypassed.
Yeah.
The government, law enforcement, even corporations, they adapt. The main way around it, commercial data markets.
Explain that. How does that bypass a warrant requirement?
Okay, so Carpenter says police need a warrant to get location data from your phone carrier. That source is constitutionally protected, right?
Right.
But what if that same location data was collected by, say, a weather app you use, which then sold it to a data broker?
Ah.
Now, law enforcement or any government agency can often just buy that data from the broker. No warrant needed because they're buying it on the open market, like any other customer.
It's incredible. They sidestepped the Constitution by just becoming a customer.
Precisely. And they also use things like administrative subpoenas. These don't usually need a judge's approval or probable cause like a warrant does. They can use those to get certain types of data too.
So the legal protections are there, but they're being chipped away at by tech and commerce.
That's a good way to put it. Which brings us to the actual federal laws we do have, like the Electronic Communications Privacy Act, ECPA. That's supposed to protect our emails and calls, right?
Yeah, specifically the content of your texts and calls.
Right. Content is protected to a degree, but here's the massive loophole. Metadata.
Okay, define metadata again in this context.
It's everything except the content. Who you called, when you called them, how long you talked, where you were when you made the call or sent the text.
And that stuff isn't as protected.
Nope. It's way easier for authorities to get metadata than the actual content. And think about what it reveals.
It paints a pretty detailed picture, even without the words.
Exactly. Our sources call it digital diary. It shows your travel patterns, your relationships, who you associate with, even like when you're awake or asleep, based on phone activity. It tells your life story without needing a warrant for the actual story.
And what about the Telecommunications Act? It mentions protecting CP&I, consumer proprietary network information. Sounds relevant.
It sounds relevant.
Mhm.
CP&I covers things like your call records and usage patterns held by carriers. But the sources are clear. The act is, quote, riddled with exceptions and workarounds.
So another law that hasn't kept up with technology.
Pretty much. These laws were written for a different era. Landlines, dial-up, they just aren't built for the constant data stream from smartphones. It's a patchwork quilt, like the sources say, but with more holes than fabric.
Which really highlights the core problem. There's no single strong federal privacy law in the U.S.
Correct. Zero comprehensive federal laws. And that vacuum allows this whole surveillance economy to just boom.
And that's why individual states are stepping in, trying to fill the gap.
Exactly. But that creates this uneven mess where your rights depend entirely on which state you live in.
And California is out front on this, right? We hear a lot about their laws. They're called the gold standard.
Absolutely. You've got the CCPA, the California Consumer Privacy Act. That gives people the right to know what data is being collected about them and ask for it to be deleted. That's huge.
And they actually enforce it.
They do. They set up the CPPA, the California Privacy Protection Agency, an actual enforcement body that, quote, actually has teeth. They can levy significant fines, which gets companies' attention.
And they're not stopping there. What's this 2024 Delete Act?
Oh, that one's potentially revolutionary. It's supposed to let Californians make a single request to have their data deleted from all registered data breakers at once.
Instead of having to hunt down hundreds individually.
Exactly. It tackles that broker ecosystem directly. It's real progress. But, and this is the big but,
What's the catch?
the catch is, if you don't live in California, you're pretty much, as one source put it, living in the surveillance stone age. Most other states have minimal protections, if any. It's the Wild West out there.
Okay, let's switch gears to the companies themselves. Big tech, they all have these statements, right? Using fancy terms like federated learning, differential privacy.
Uh-huh. And the punchline is always the same. We don't sell your personal information. You see it everywhere.
It's the standard line.
It is. But the sources argue this is where the language gets really, really slippery. It's intentional misdirection.
Okay, so break that down. If they don't sell it, what do they do?
Well, they don't typically take cash directly in exchange for a file labeled your personal data. What they do is share it extensively with hundreds, sometimes thousands, of business partners, advertisers, researchers.
As part of other deals, advertising placements, service agreements.
Exactly. And they claim the data they share is de-identified or anonymized.
Which sounds safe, but what's the chilling translation, as the outline puts it?
The chilling translation is that de-identified is largely a myth in practice. While techniques like federated learning, which processes data on your device, sound privacy-preserving,
But you're not foolproof.
far from it. This supposedly anonymous data is routinely shared, aggregated, and yes, sold downstream by others. And crucially, it's easily re-identified.
How easily?
One study mentioned in the sources found that just 3 fairly basic pieces of data like your ZIP code, birth date, and gender were enough to uniquely identify 87% of people in a supposedly anonymized data set.
87%. Just from those 3 things.
87%. So the anonymity claim, it's more like a legal fig leaf than actual protection.
Because your overall pattern is unique.
Your digital fingerprint is as unique as your physical one. When you combine that anonymized data set with other available info, public records, social media profiles, other data leaks, it's often trivial to link it back to you.
So they don't technically sell your identified data, but they enable a system where it gets re-identified and used anyway.
That's the game. They profit immensely from facilitating that exchange.
Okay, let's go deeper into that shadow world. The data black market. Who are the main players actually collecting and trading this stuff?
Well, first up, you have the data brokers. These are companies most people have never even heard of, but they build incredibly detailed profiles on millions of us.
Where do they get the data?
They buy it from apps, from websites, through trackers, from credit card companies sometimes. They aggregate location data, purchase history, app usage, browsing habits, even sensitive stuff like health information or political leanings, all usually without your direct, informed consent.
And they track everything, where you go, who you meet.
Pretty much. Where you work, where you live, where you shop, which doctor you visit, who your friends are based on contact patterns. It's incredibly granular.
Okay, besides brokers, what about the apps on our phones?
Ah, yes. The Trojan horses, as the sources sometimes call them. That free game or that simple utility like a flashlight app. Many are designed to harvest way more data than they need to function. You grant permission for one thing, but they're often collecting location, contacts, other app usage in the background and sending it off.
Acting like little spies we installed ourselves.
Basically, yeah. And who buys all this aggregated, detailed data from the brokers and the apps?
Let me guess. Advertisers?
Advertisers, definitely. But also law enforcement and government agencies, bypassing warrant requirements like we discussed, political campaigns, insurance companies, financial institutions, anyone who can profit from knowing your habits, movements, and potential vulnerabilities.
It's constant then. Someone's always watching.
Always watching, always listening, always monetizing. That's the picture the sources paint.
And this isn't just theoretical risk. The sources gave concrete examples of real-world harm. Well, let's talk about those. The bounty hunter one sounds particularly scary.
Yeah, that was a documented case. It came out that major mobile carriers were selling access to real-time customer location data. Not just historical, but where you were right now.
And that data got into the hands of bounty hunters.
And private investigators, yeah. People who could then track individuals in real time without any legal oversight, just by paying a fee through intermediaries. The potential for abuse there is just staggering.
Chilling. And then there are the endless data breaches. It feels like we hear about a new one every week.
It's almost become background noise, hasn't it?
Yeah.
But we're talking millions, sometimes hundreds of millions, of records exposed every year. Phone numbers, emails, addresses, location history, passwords, all spilled onto the dark web.
Making identity theft and other scams easier?
Much easier. And finally, there's the manipulation aspect, using all this behavioral data against us.
How does that work?
Because the data reveals not just what you buy, but maybe why you buy or what your anxieties are or what kinds of messages resonate with you. This allows for hyper-personalized targeting.
For ads.
For ads, yes, but also for political messaging, sometimes even disinformation. The sources talk about vulnerabilities being weaponized for profit and influence. They can target ads based on your insecurities, your health concerns, your political leanings, all gleaned from your digital trail.
So it's not just about selling shoes, it's about potentially influencing votes or exploiting psychological weak points.
That's the darker side of it, absolutely. Which leads back to that sobering conclusion we mentioned earlier.
Your phone is a surveillance device you paid for.
Yeah, grim, right. But we can't just end on that note. The sources do offer ways to push back, even if total privacy is, well, probably impossible.
Okay, let's focus on that. What can people actually do? Actionable steps.
Right. First things first, lock down your settings.
Yep.
Seriously. Go through your phone's privacy settings, app by app. Be ruthless.
What does ruthless mean here?
Limit app permissions. Does that game really need your location 24/7? Probably not. Set location access to while using the app or never, whenever possible. Turn off ad personalization. Limit tracking across apps and websites.
Be intentional about every permission granted.
Exactly.
Yep.
Second, practice regular digital hygiene. It's like brushing your teeth, but for your data.
Meaning?
Go into your Google My Activity dashboard or Apple's privacy dashboards. See what data is being stored, and then delete it regularly. You can often set it to auto-delete after a certain period, like 3 or 18 months. Take control of erasing your history.
Make your digital footprint less permanent.
Precisely. And the third big thing, demand better. Use your power as a citizen and a consumer.
How?
Support organizations fighting for stronger privacy laws. Tell your representatives this matters. Demand transparency from companies about what data they collect and who they share it with. Choose services from companies that seem to prioritize privacy, if you can. Vote with your wallet. Vote with your voice.
So settings, hygiene, advocacy.
Yeah, and the sources are realistic. Even doing all this won't stop all tracking. But it makes it harder. It raises the cost for those trying to exploit your data. It's about resistance.
Okay, so let's recap the stark numbers from the sources. In the U.S., we have
0 comprehensive federal privacy laws. A big fat 0.
And meanwhile,
Essentially, 100% of your phone activity is being tracked, analyzed, and monetized in some way by someone.
The eyes are always watching.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
And the legal system, as it stands, just isn't keeping up. It's too easy to bypass the protections that do exist, largely because the profits involved in this data economy are just astronomical.
Awareness, then, and taking action seem like the only real defenses we have.
That's the bottom line. You have to understand how the game works, protect yourself as much as you can, and keep pushing for systemic change.
Which leads us to the final thought the source material really left us chewing on. It's a powerful statement. Your digital life is your actual life.
Yeah, the lines have completely blurred.
So the challenge for you, listening right now, knowing everything we've just discussed, knowing how public your data is, how easily it can be traced back to you, what's one concrete step you'll take this week, just one thing, to try and take back a little bit of that control?
Something to think about. Until next time, stay vigilant out there. Stay informed.
We'll catch you on the next Deep Dive.